Welcome to a special 311-day version of the Casting for Fun podcast. I am your host, Albert Pineda, and joining me tonight are my good buddies, Nick Turner, fourth time on the show.
Oh, hey now.
My good buddy, Sean Luevano, first time. I've been looking forward to getting Sean on the show. I think he's got some really cool, insightful things to say. Welcome, Sean.
Well, thank you, man. Thank you.
So happy 311 day, guys. How's everyone feeling?
Happy 311 day.
Doing all right.
Awesome.
Feeling good. Can't believe it's another 311 day, another year.
Oh yeah. Grateful that they're getting to do the show tonight. I'm not tonight. I'm this weekend. We're not going to be there, obviously, but my good friends Leslie and George, they're going to be there tonight or tomorrow.
Of course.
So they'll be there.
Nice.
So I'll definitely get to ask her about how the show went, which is really cool to hear about. But yeah, we're missing our fourth. We're missing Marcello, but he was kind enough to send us an audio clip, which we're going to plug in somewhere later into this podcast, which I think will be pretty fun to hear his thoughts about 311 and why we love this band so much. So let's jump in right into it. I asked this question to Marcello when I got to chat with him a few weeks ago on the podcast I did with him, how he first got introduced to the band itself and how he came to love their music. So I wanted to present that question to you, Nick, and to you, Sean, and then I would answer myself as well. So how did you first find out about 311 and what is it that really appeals to you about the band?
Well, for me, it goes back to our good friend Derek Dupre and his family and his brother Josh. And actually, as I was thinking about it, your brother Danny, Albert. So I think really I got introduced through Derek, but the first album I ever listened to was Grassroots, and I borrowed it from Danny. Awesome. And I think I kept it for longer than he wanted to let me. And I just had that in the car, in the Nickmobile on the CD player every day, all day. So I learned it was the album Grassroots that I first listened to that got me to like him. And then from there, just through Derek and then meeting Marcello and you and everyone liking them and their other albums, just took off from there. That's a short version.
Awesome. How about you, Sean?
My older brother bought the Blue album, and I was looking through the CD, like the cover, like the little booklet, and I saw that they had how they have that one picture where they all have like the big like alien eyes painted on their face.
Yep.
Yeah.
That was really cool because I was really into aliens when I was younger, and then I heard Down, and then I was just hooked ever since. And then I've known myself for a long time, so when I found out he liked 311 and I met you guys, that was just great. It was like I didn't know music could bring people together like that.
Oh, absolutely. 311
Nice.
can definitely do that, which is really cool. For me, it was kind of an interesting situation. Like I first saw them actually on MTV, believe it or not, back when MTV actually showed videos. So in
Right.
96, a year after the Blue album came out, they started getting their mainstream success and getting radio play.
Yeah.
So I saw the music video for Down with my brother Danny, as Nick had mentioned. And to be honest, I didn't like Down very much when I first heard it. I don't know, like it didn't seem like good enough to me. Like I thought it was just kind of like average. It wasn't until I heard All Mixed Up. I think that was the song that really got me.
Yeah.
That was the next single after Down.
Very good song.
But Danny was the one who was hardcore into 311 at first, before I really was. So as Nick mentioned, he had a bunch of their CDs, and the Grassroots album disappearing. Actually, I thought it was Derek who had it, but it is interesting to hear that Nick was the one who actually had it.
He gave it to me. I didn't take it. Just when he asked for it back, I was like, I'm not ready yet. I'm not done.
Oh, funny stuff, man.
Plus, I knew it would piss him off. So, Danny, I'm sorry. But,
But I know Danny's a regular listener to the show, so I know he's definitely tuning in for this one.
Anyway, I got to give him credit. He let me. It's funny, too, because that was the first album I listened to. But once I started listening to the other music, like the Blue album, like I had heard the songs on the radio and liked them. I just never was into them. So when I did hear them, I'm like, oh, okay, that's these guys. Like, I know them.
Yeah. Okay, so from there, that leads to the next question, your first concert. So do you remember, each of you, your very first 311 concert?
Yep.
I'll let you go first, Sean.
I think you might have to remember, Nick. It's the first time I met you, Nick, actually. It was at Bakersfield or Barstow. Somewhere really hot.
Okay, so here's the thing. We went to so many. they all start to blend in now
I
that I'm
think it was your
old.
first one after the mission.
Okay. Yeah, that would make sense. Yeah.
So Bakersfield, the
Yeah.
worst. So some are far, some are hot.
Wait, was
I
that
remember
did Marcello drive and like his AC wasn't working right?
that, dude.
Oh, and it was such a crappy
So,
drive and
I
traffic.
I wrote down my notes. Hot air. So
Yes.
so his mom. So he got driving his mom's like Maxima, this old Nissan, right? And it was just hot as hell. And I remember he had the windows up to turn the AC on, but it was just blowing hot air. Like there was no like nothing. There's like no antifreeze or whatever makes AC cold. It wasn't. It was out. He's like, no, man. He's driving. He's like, put your hand on the vent. You could feel it, bro. You could feel it. Like,
I was gonna say that. I remember that.
It was hotter with the windows, with him blowing the hot air than it was the windows down. It was so funny, man.
Oh wow.
And sorry. And then yeah, I just remember we went to the show and I was really chill. I remember I bought like this like burgundy 311 shirt, and then I don't know who the opening band was, but I fell asleep. Like because it was this like little crappy arena, and they had like it was like left field pavilion where she's like all benches. And I remember I laid down and I like knocked out. I don't know, because the heat, because we were driving like 2 hours in the sauna. Like I don't know what it was. I just knocked out for opening band, and then the rest was magical, and I was hooked.
Oh yeah. And so not to interrupt you, Sean. So if I remember correctly, that opening band was something corporate.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, it was.
Because okay, so we'll get to my show after Nick's, but I mean, so the Bakersfield show that you're talking about is after or before my first show, which was Fresno. But let's get to Nick's story first.
Actually, I do want to point out that I have a vivid memory of Marcello doing that hand over the AC unit. Like, hey, it does feel cool, right? Like you can tell it's cooling down, and like Sean and I being like, no, it's not cooling down, man. He was trying to sell us on it. Like, no, it's going to work. Just wait. And eventually had to give up. By the way, Marcello, I think, is going to be joining us shortly.
Oh, is he? Oh, okay. Let me
Yeah.
send him an invite then. I wasn't sure if he was going to make it after all.
I forwarded my email link to him, but he texted that to send him the link. So
he knows he knows that he's a big part of these stories. So I'm sure he wants to have his side heard.
Hey, I can respect that. Oh, he'll be free in 20 minutes. All right. Well, so
we'll still be recording.
Yeah. So my first concert was it was in Ventura, California. I lied to my parents because it was on a Sunday. Didn't want them to know I was breaking the Sabbath. So lied to my parents, told them I was just hanging out with Derek or something. And we drove down to Ventura with Derek and his brother Josh and his cousin Joe. And yeah, was one of the best concerts I've ever seen, and was hooked from that moment on. And that was like that trip, I think, was the first time I ever had a Red Bull. Got a Red Bull down there. That was new to the world. But yeah, we drove 2 hours down to Ventura and went and saw it there, and it was amazing.
Awesome, man. Oh, it looks like Marcello's ready. Let me go ahead and admit him right now. Here we go.
That show, the Bakersfield show, that was what, Nick? 2001?
It would have been 2003.
No,
2003.
Yeah.
2003. Oh, I had just graduated high school.
Marcello, how's it going, buddy?
What up?
Good, man.
I'm glad you made it.
Yeah, my shoot went over, but ended earlier.
Oh, okay.
All right.
No, I'm saying, that doesn't make sense, but sorry.
All right. You're here. That's all that matters.
Well, thanks for coming, man.
Hey.
Happy 311 day to you, brother.
We got a question
Happy
for you.
311 day.
Happy 311 day. Hey, man, does the AC work in your car right now?
Why? Yeah, of course it does.
We were talking about my first 311 show, and the thing I remember most was you trying to convince us the AC was working in your mom's car, and it was just blowing in hot air. It was hotter. with the AC on than with the windows down, bro. It was the
Oh
funniest
my
thing
gosh.
ever. And you put it in your hand over the feel it, bro.
It's cool.
It's coming
It
out.
feels
You
good,
feel
right? It's getting
good,
cooler.
yeah. Bruh.
You know why
Nope.
I did that? It was probably because for some reason, like with every car that I got, there was always a coolant issue, and like it was always overheating.
Oh, that's funny. Well, what? Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Sean.
True story. One time we're coming back from a Dodger game and his car was smoking, bro. His Honda Civic was smoking on the 10 freeway.
Hey man,
Oh
that
my
happens.
gosh.
That happens, son.
Good times.
Good times, man. Oh, one thing I'll give you props for, Marcello, is for those early 311 shows. You were constantly our chauffeur, man. So thank you for being a brother and bringing us all the time. In fact, I mean, to be honest, back then I didn't like driving. I mean, I had my car, my Ford Contour, which was a piece of junk. In fact, this story for another time because it was 311 day, not Aerosmith day. But Nick and I drove going to an Aerosmith concert because I blew an engine hose.
Oh my gosh.
We'll have to tell that story.
I'll tell you why. I tell you why I was the chauffeur. It was mainly because I think those early 311 days for us, we always wanted to be in front of the barricade. And so I was like, if I'm going to drive, y'all going to have to come whenever I say. And so we would end up, waiting in line for like a few hours before they even open the door.
Yep.
But dude, Nick showed me the trick. I don't remember where we were, but he's like, dude, just hang back. They're going to start playing like Freak Out. Everyone's going to be jumping up and you just like squirm your way through to the front.
Yep. Every time. It works.
Yeah.
Oh,
awesome. Okay, so before you had joined in, Marcello, we were actually reminiscing about our own individual very first 311 concert. So do you remember yours when you saw him for the first time live?
Yeah, it was like 1999. I was working at Tower Records, and it was right as like Sound System came out, because Sound System came out in 99, right? I can't remember.
Yeah,
exactly.
October of 99. Yeah.
And the art department at Tower Records, those guys would always get free tickets from like the label because they were in charge of making like this unique art. And the guy who got me the tickets, I asked them the 2 tickets, and I think I took Derek.
I think so.
But it was at the House of Blues on Sunset, may it rest in peace. And dude, on the ticket it said they were the only ones opening, right? I mean, they were the only ones playing, and the ticket said like 9 p.m. and they came on at like 10:30 and they played a full set, and I was like fucking tired. I mean freaking tired. But it was a great. I mean, it was like my first time ever watching them. I think Tim had a shirt that said Sugar High, and yeah, it was a great experience. I mean, like, I think that really hooked me. The first show really did hook me.
Awesome, man. Very cool. Very cool. Before we jump into the next topic, I want to just share briefly my first experience, which was with 2 of the gentlemen here, Marcello and Nick. The other member of our 4-man team was Derek. It was to Fresno, where again Marcello drove in his mom's car. Fresno, I remember just I guess the way people think of Chino, that's the way I saw Fresno. Just it's not a nice town. I don't think I have any listeners in Fresno. If I do, I apologize, but your town's pretty bad. but it was a great show. I mean, again, several hour drive with my buddies, and Marcelo's mom's car had overheated. It was over 100 degrees when we got there, but yeah, it was my very first 311 show. The snoozer Sunday Corporate opened, but after that 311 was on and it was great, and I've been loving their shows ever since. So there you go. So that would have been the tour of 2003, touring for Revolver, where Nick and I had mentioned that tour was a really cool tour because like a lot of the deep cuts from Revolver are really great that we think.
Yeah. Was it that circular venue that looked like it was like they used it for
boxing?
For boxing or for like lucha libre, right?
Yeah. I think that the venue itself was called the Rainbow Room, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh yeah, that's right. I almost got in a fight that day, I think.
You got in a fight? What? Ah, you think you got in a fight? You weren't even close.
No, I wasn't close, but I was like about to burst into
Right.
some rage. Yeah.
Okay, gentlemen, this is really cool, man. Good stuff. Good stuff. Okay, so briefly, I want to just touch on your favorite 311 album. If anyone wants to jump in first.
I've always
it.
liked. I always loved Homebrew. I think from beginning to end, it was a perfect album, and I think it was great. I think I was surprised at how great it was for being the first album.
You mean music
You mean,
or?
Oh, music. I'm sorry, music.
Yeah.
Yeah. Man, I'm gonna have to say, I mean, for me, I think sound system. I think just because that's when I really got into the band. But if I like musically and just like deep cuts, I think Transistor's like pretty amazing.
It is.
I mean, it's a spacey ass album. It's like such a great album.
It's really great.
That's what I would say.
Yeah, absolutely. How about you?
I think it's always difficult. I still remember back in the day trying to answer this question and trying to figure out how to come up with an answer. And I was like, all right, if I could only listen to one album for the rest of my life, period, no other band in the world, I'm stuck on an island, I got power, and I can listen to one CD forever till I die. And I was like, all right. I ended up, I think, between music and Transistor. And I ended up with music just because it's more upbeat. But I remember thinking Transistor because it's a little more chill and it's longer. But yeah, I think if I could only listen to one album, I'd pick music.
Awesome, man. Good pick. For me, I think I'd pick Transistor. It was interesting that it was actually released on my birthday on August 5th, 1997,
Nice.
which is a little significant thing for me. The longest album, so the most bang for your buck, full of radio singles like Beautiful
Prisoner,
Disaster, and
Beautiful Disaster.
And then the songs get very spacey, like Marcello called it. Like, in fact, if I remember correctly, the mix CD that Marcello and Derek put together, the Slow Jizzle, a lot of the songs were from that mix, right? Or that songs from the album were put onto that.
Yeah.
Mix. Like Inner Light Spectrum and Use of Time.
That's good stuff. Yes.
Wait, I think we should all give big ups to Josh Dupre, who was like him
OG.
and Derek were the OGs of like putting like mixtapes together, like a mixture of like 311 and Slightly Stupid.
Oh,
so,
yeah.
I mean,
G-Love.
Yeah, that G-Love CD Josh made I wish I could recreate it. That was one of the greatest things ever.
It really was, man.
Yeah, I
That's
agree.
like early days of Napster and like Kazaa, and that they would download all those songs and then put it on a CD, right?
Yeah. Yep, that's right.
Yeah, so Derek and Josh were definitely the pioneers in doing that.
We're dating ourselves, same Napster.
Probably lots of people who have done it. So
right, everyone did it.
Yeah.
Awesome, man.
Well, here I've got a question for you guys.
Okay, shoot, man. What you got?
Okay, so let's just keep it real here. What's the last 311 album that you like really paid attention to?
It would probably be Uplifter.
Yeah.
It's actually, I mean, I still love the other albums, like the most recent ones, like Voyager, Mosaic, and Stereolithic, the three most recent. But actually, I can't help but think that you could maybe play a little trivia game and like play a random song from one of those three and say, hey, try and guess which album it's from. I don't know if I could do it.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, like, some like bands that we love aren't always going to create hits. And I think for me, Uplifter was like the last one that I really, really like enjoyed. There's some deep cuts. I mean, like, honestly, like the later albums have like great songs, but like you said, it's hard to differentiate.
Yeah.
How about you, Nick?
I would agree. Uplifter was the last album I was like really into. from them. The other ones, like they'd have a good song, but I'd peter out after a while. After a year, it was like, eh. And I haven't seen 311 in a little bit, but I also noticed a lot of, or some of those albums, they wouldn't always play as many songs on. You wouldn't hear, you might miss, they wouldn't even play a song from some of those albums here and there at the concerts. So yeah.
How about you, Sean?
It would have to be Uplifter. And then I remember I was into it, and then I moved to Mexico for a couple of years, and then I came back, and that was it.
Yeah.
I just couldn't get into the newer stuff.
Yeah. Sorry for derailing the conversation.
No, that was a good question.
No, it's a good question. In fact, actually, we kind of went over the questions that I had. So from here on out, it's basically just going to be open discussion about shows, anything related to 311. One thing I wanted to just mention, I talked about this on our podcast, Marcello, well, your podcast, but the album Universal Pulse obviously has your picture in it. So if not for the music, that should be a significant thing, right?
Oh yeah, I mean, like, it was like special, you know. You go from like sneaking in a point and shoot camera, you know, in your pants, like at the Palladium, to like them coming to the warehouse loft that I was living in downtown, and like driving around the arts district and, you know, photographing them. I mean, it's like a Cinderella story, if you will, you know.
Oh yeah, absolutely, man.
You know, I got to witness it, I think, more than anyone. Marcello working, and I give him credit. I got to witness him go from, like you said, trying to sneak in a camera to meeting with management. I think, was it Adam? Peter, like, I'm trying to remember the first time, and I can't, maybe you can, but the first time you struck up the conversation and we're like, hey, I'd like to take pictures. Can I get a photo pass? And then from that moment on, every time we saw him, then you had his email, and you'd get a photo pass to everyone, and you would give them the pictures. I actually still remember, I think the first time you took your good camera in on the photo pass, you totally messed up. All the photos were crap. The color was off.
Yeah.
I remember
everything was so bad.
Yeah, you developed it, and I remember, like, it was still cool as hell. We didn't care, or I didn't care. Like, it was still just cool. But also to point out how well you've gotten at photography, like from that first time, and then like a year later, they're putting your photos on their website. You know? So props to you, my man, for doing a good job.
Oh, thanks, man. Thanks. But you know, dude, like, as much as it was like I feel like it was more of it's like a personal, like, you know, triumph for me, if you will. But I think like we all sort of, like, you know, Sean got to know you guys through me because we all love 311, and like it was like a community. And I think for me it was just, you know, knowing that we were going to go to so many shows and have to pay. I didn't want to like pay, so I had to figure out a way to get it for free, you know.
We all of us were trying that. You just happened to strike gold. You
did, man.
I remember when you were doing the shows consistently. I remember you shoot us a text. All right, guys, they're going on stage at this time, and I remember being around people like, oh yeah, they're coming out at like 9:09 or something. And like, how do you know? And I was like, I just know these things, bro. So I definitely try to pull as much clout as I could from that, man. That was so cool.
Oh, that's funny.
It was funny though, on that, like in the concert progression, like I learned that from you too, that if I saw management, I would just ask them what time the band was coming out, because anyone on the crew knows. I'd learn that because you would learn, and I'd be like, oh, I can just ask anyone if you didn't know.
It's funny because go ahead.
Oh no, go Sean.
I learned from you because I always had like disposable cameras growing up. My dad always took pictures, and I took a photography class at Citrus College, and I wanted to go see this band play. And I emailed the band on MySpace them, hey, can I take pictures of you? Whatever. Like, yeah, come on, we're gonna play at this place. And I go, and then I shot like 3 rolls of film, and like I know it was expensive to develop those rolls, and I was like, no, I'm done. I can't do this anymore, bro. I can't spend like $35-$40 just to get one picture.
That's funny.
Yeah.
Albert, did you guys play that story of the first time Nick and I met 311?
No, I haven't played it yet. So we were going to get to that, but I don't know if you want to just tell it live in person, or do you want to hear the clip? Because I've been practicing. I can play the clip, just like put it right into the podcast.
No, I mean, I'd rather say it.
Okay. Yeah, then.
So we went up to Santa Barbara. And Derek was using his dad's dually and his dually truck. And he had like 2 gas tanks. And then like it started sputtering out on the 10 freeway. And
hey, can I cut in here? I want to add to your story. So I specifically remember, you're right, big dually truck, 2 tanks. Derek put gas in it. Come to find out, the fuel filter on one of the tanks wasn't good, but his dad didn't tell him. So he spent money on it, and I swear we didn't even get like 2 miles on the highway before the truck started flashing up. And then when we got off the freeway, because it was like, well, there's car problems, let's get off the highway. And then it died as we're getting off, and we end up our exit. It's a loop that goes under the freeway, and we get stuck under the freeway. And we have other friends with us, and it's their first time going to a concert. Fawn and teammate, and who else? Sergio. And we're all looking at Derek, and he's like, I put gas, it's clogged. And so he switched fuel tanks, but we sat there, like we couldn't push the truck. We sat there for 5 minutes, and he's trying to start it on the other fuel tank. And he's like, it'll start, just gotta wait. Like, trust me, it'll start. And then we had to get gas because the fuel tank that we switched to didn't have gas. So Derek was asking us to put gas in it. And we were like, dude, you were in charge of driving on this one. He's like, I already put gas in. Like, I need help. I already spent all my money on gas.
Oh my gosh.
We had to pitch in. And then once we switched tanks, we got there no problem.
Oh, it's funny, man. Yo, Marcello, you still there?
I think we cut out for a second.
Oh, okay. Well, when we wait for Marcello to come back, so that's what I wanted to jump into next, just reminiscing about our favorite experiences and shows, because there's so many. So I'm grateful that we have the extra time, so we can take our time and just talk about it. I wanted to talk about I was hoping Marcello would be back for this one, but to talk about the wheelchair shows.
Ooh.
Oh, sorry, little technical difficulties with Marcello's audio. Sorry, man. Well, Marcello, if you can hear us, hopefully you can. The 3 wheel turn shows were amazing. Like, weeknights in Hollywood. I remember, was it the 3rd night or one of the nights that we went to Pink's Hot Dogs? You guys remember that after the show? But then all 3 shows were different sets. So that was a cool thing about 311. Just the experience would be, okay, you go to one show and then you go to the very next show, and it'd be a completely different experience. And
part of that, if I remember right, was it was all the West Coast fans complaining because 311 Day was always in New Orleans, and that's the big concert, 3-4 hours. Yeah. And all the West Coast fans are like, we all can't afford it. Like, how come we don't get a big show? And so their compromise at that point was to do 3 shows in a row, 3 days in a row over a weekend, and do different sets, and it would equal one 311 Day kind of. And they made us pay more money for it, but what can you do?
Mm-hmm.
It's just one of those things, man, that like, I don't even remember how much we paid. I don't really care. That was amazing. Right. I mean, that's where Hive became one of, no, was it Hive? No, I forgot what song they opened with. And it was
which night though? That's the question. Yeah, because it was a different song.
I can't remember.
Night.
Anyways, I just remember. I remember more like the energy and the excitement. Like those weeknights, we go out eat different places. Went to Pink's. Like I remember. I think it was the 2nd night. Albert took his car and he left the sunroof open, And
Yeah,
he
I
was
remember
like,
that.
"Where
That
could
was,
they?"
that was my piece of junk contour.
I remember you're stressed that they're gonna steal your radio or something like that, or your wallet.
Naive,
So
like 20-year-old, like, yeah, nobody touched the car, man. Just
yeah, dude.
naivety of a 25, 26, however old I was at the time.
Yeah, I just remembered just hanging out, having a good time, and excited for the show. Like those 3 days were special for sure.
I remember this is I wish Marcello was still here, but oh, he said one of the funniest things ever that made me laugh. And it's kind of mean, Sean, but you know, we're always mean to each other.
Oh,
I still remember as we're pulling into park, you already know where I'm going. I
yeah.
think as we're pulling into park, and I think he was driving that night, and he rolled his window down. There's a guy selling shirts in the parking lot, and he's like, "Hey man, do you have elephant size for my buddy?" Like so mean, but it was pretty funny, man. I gotta admit, it was funny. But you got him
I
back,
mean,
so
but that's what happens when you grow up together. You know.
yeah. No, it was beautiful. We all laughed. We all knew it was a joke.
Fun. No, yeah.
But I just remember laughing my ass off. Like, I can't believe you did that, but that's so funny.
I remember one of my favorite times was when I was getting ready to leave to Mexico, and Marcello was like, "Yo, just come to Vegas with Nick and Albert, and I'll get you a ticket for 311 day."
Yep.
I remember I wasn't prepared. I like took my dirty laundry to wash it by hand in the hotel. I saw Serena Williams at the show. I was standing next to her.
Awesome,
We saw
man.
Tom Morello at that bar.
Yep. I got a
And
picture with him.
then,
Awesome.
yeah, you took a picture of me, but it was blurry. I mean, it was just like the M&Ms, you know, like
There's so many stories.
That's funny. That's funny.
It's hard to keep track of them all.
Okay. I mean, I think most people may not be aware, so I'll just go ahead and share it because it's at my expense, so I don't mind. So I don't really have that much experience staying at hotels. At least I didn't back then. Now I do because Allison and I travel pretty frequently. But yeah, I didn't know that the candy that they leave there and drinks and stuff, I didn't know that they weren't complimentary. So like, you know, I remember opening up a bag and Nick's like, "What the freak? What are you doing, man? That's like a $5 bag of M&Ms." Like, what are you talking about, man? They just left it here for us to eat. Sure enough, it got tacked on the bill. I still couldn't figure out, hey, how do they know what you eat? What's going on? How are they spying on us or what? So,
Oh man.
and
my
then
favorite part is on the way home, Nick buys M&Ms for everybody.
I think I only cared because it was my card at the front desk. So I was like, I'm the one that's going to pay for it.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know, so, okay, here's a question. We've all traveled to see 311. What other bands have you traveled to see, though? It's not 311 subject, but I'm just curious. Have you traveled much to see any other band? Just for comparison's sake.
Well, just the most recent, again, as we talked about it earlier, Nick, was Garth Brooks in San Diego this past weekend.
Right. Excluding that,
So excluding that,
going back over time, because you did do that.
Yeah.
But that was one time. Like, is there another band you've traveled more than once to see?
No, there hasn't been. It's just been 311, really.
I did one time. I did do 311 6 times in 7 days. I started in San Fran. I did all California and then in Vegas. But actually, because I also like reggaeton, Spanish music, and I'm going to New York next Friday to see an artist, Bad Bunny.
Oh, nice.
2 weeks later, I'm going to Miami to see him. And then I got tickets to go see another artist, J Balvin, in Puerto Rico in June.
Oh, man, that's freaking dope, dude.
Yeah,
Nice.
man. So, yeah, man, being in the pandemic, man, being locked in, you just, it's all about YOLO now. You never know.
True. I don't think I've really traveled that far for other bands either. Maybe Slightly Stupid, but not as far as 311. Like, we've gone across the country to see
New
them.
Orleans, man.
Yeah. Well, New Orleans. So New Orleans, Vegas. Yeah. I've seen them here in Texas now that I live in Texas.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I was just curious though. Like,
the only one I've gone to without you guys would have been Denver, Red Rocks.
I wasn't there either. Now, you went to Denver one time by yourself though.
Oh, well, I mean, I met up with friends there, like Danielle.
Right.
and some of the people she knew. And
Right,
Marcello,
right. True.
Red Rocks is amazing. I mean, it's I would say go see anyone there. I think
Yeah, I've still never been there. I'd still like to go there someday.
Yeah.
That'd be dope. What other? That's the thing. So I sent a picture earlier. So we went to Vegas once. They were playing at the GameWorks store. And we got tickets. I think it was Derek, Marcello, and myself. I'm trying to remember if there was someone else there. I don't think you went, Sean. And yeah, so we drove up there and it was great. It was just they put a stage. I mean, it's a GameWorks. They put a little stage in there. Jimmy Kimball kind of hosted because they were promoting games too. He was there and it was a great show. And I remember at the end, Marcello, it was coming up to the encore and Marcello started chanting, F the BS. For him to play that song. He started it and we got the whole crowd to chant it. And they weren't going to play it, but they ended the show with that song because Marcello started chanting it. It was just a cool experience to see how the band felt the love and everything from the crowd and just, all right, we're going to give you what you want.
Awesome, man. Very cool.
I have a question for you guys.
Yeah.
What was your favorite opener and do you remember where you saw it? Like opening song.
Oh, 311's
311.
favorite, like
Yeah.
their first song of a concert.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Yeah.
The Red Rock show that I went to, they began with the Hidden Transistor intro. And that was really cool to hear. I think that was one of the few rare times I've ever remember hearing it. It's kind of interesting and crazy to think that on the CD you have to it's hidden on the CD, but the vinyl of a Transistor, which I have, it's actually right on the very first track. So you put it on the record, it's there.
We should tell the young people that are listening that don't know about CD players and whatnot. So, you have your tracks, and we're always used to a hidden track at the end, meaning you just when the album stops, the clock keeps going, and at some point you hear music. This one, you had to put it in, and when the first song started, you had to hold the rewind button on your CD player, and it would go back to 0. So it was hidden in front. And in fact, I would agree. I think the first time I heard them open with that was at the Wiltern. And that was one of my favorite things. I think partially kind of where you're going, Albert, it's so rare.
Yeah.
They'd never played it before, and I'd heard it on the CD, but once I heard it live, I'm like, man, it was so much better live. I loved it.
Oh yeah.
I think mine had to be when they played at the Grove in Anaheim, when they opened up with Hive.
I remember
that was different also. Yeah.
After that opener, I was like, this is my top 5 favorite 311 song. It was different. I never expected it. And it was just one of those songs that's cool to listen to, but live was another beast.
Oh yeah.
But I'm also thinking it wasn't an opening song, but when we saw them at Dodger Stadium, and correct me if I'm wrong, but it started to rain a little bit when they played Beyond the Gray Sky.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I remember that.
I believe I was not there for that one. That was one I missed somehow.
Yeah, that was the free show, right? You just have to register online and you can get in for free. And it was in the parking lot of Dodger Stadium.
Yeah, I think I was working something. I couldn't make it.
Yeah, I think that was such a cool experience. This is one of those things. It's I mean, not as big, but it's kind of ones like when Prince played the Super Bowl and started to rain. He played Purple Rain. I was like, Beyond the Gray Sky, right when it started, sprinkling outdoors at Dodger Stadium, our cathedral out west.
Yeah, really.
What's one of your favorite concerts period from them where the set list you just loved?
Oh,
have you ever thought of that? Because we've seen them so many times, but which concert kind of you're like, man, that was just really good. They're all great, but which one kind of stuck out as the complete concert and performance is one of your favorites?
I want to say it was one of the Greek theater shows that we went to, Nick. And if I'm not mistaken, I want to say like for the Evolver tour, I think they did the Greek that tour.
Yes, they did.
I want to say it's that one because there was another Greek show that they played with the Whalers, and that one I thought was good, but I don't think it was one of the better shows. But I want to say that would have been 2006 with the Whalers, but in 2003 for Evolver at the Greek, I think I'd have to look on their website, which is pretty cool that 311 takes the time to actually post their set list for every single show they've ever done.
Yep.
Which is really cool. So that's what I would probably have to do. But if you're asking just off the top of my head, I want to say that Greek show in 2003.
What about you, Sean?
I went solo. It was I think it might have been the Catalyst up in Santa Cruz. I don't know if it was because that's the farthest I've ever been. I went to San Fran. I met Pina and Essay. It's just I think it was more of a trip of the whole trip in total is why I think that was my favorite show.
Nice. All right, so I'm gonna I think you got to say like a 311 day, only because you get to hear like 4 hours of concert, which you don't get to hear anywhere else. So anyone could pick a 311 day concert or those. But I actually agree with you, Albert. It was that Greek show was my first thought. And yeah, Evolver. They played a lot of songs from Evolver. And like the stage they had, I've never seen the production they had. But yeah, they played a lot of Evolver songs. And to this day, it was the only time I've ever heard him do that. And I really liked it. That was one of my favorite ones also, was that Greek.
What was the tour, Nick, where you got extra tickets and Tad went?
That would have been
that was with Snoop Dogg.
2008, yeah.
Yeah, because Dave and Ellie went.
That's
also.
Right.
Yeah, so for those, I ordered tickets. So another 311 story. I ordered tickets, bought 4. 4 showed up, and then another 4 showed up. I'm like, cool. So I'm like, all right, well, I don't know what to do with these. So I gave the 4, gave a pair to my brother and our other good friend, Dave. And I think that was his first time seeing 311. I really wanted to see 311. So I kept the better seats and gave them the seats that I knew I actually purchased. And so I got to the venue and got to our seats, and no one was there. And I can't remember which band it was during. I think it was during Snoop actually. But someone else showed up and we got kicked out. And I'm like, look, I got the tickets. Like we had duplicate tickets, but so I had to go. Right, this is in Orange County. I had to run all the way down the hill back to the front gate entrance at the box office at Irvine Meadows, or I don't know what's it called now, Albert.
It's been demolished. It's no longer standing.
Okay, yeah, and it's changed.
I guess it's the 0.5 amphitheater is like a different, like down the street amphitheater in Irvine now. But
gotcha. Yeah. Like it's a long walk from you. The gate. So like the other 3 people I was with, like they stayed in the back so they could still watch the concert. I'm like, I'm on the bottom. You guys stay and watch. I run back. I'm fighting with them. Come to find out there are 2 Nick Turners in the LA area. They sent me his pair of tickets. He had to deal with getting his replaced. So I'm there fighting with them going, here's my ID. Here's the ticket. And so they see that, oh, there's duplicates. And so I was like, hey, I'm missing the concert. I paid good money, and me and my friends are missing it because of your mistake. And because I've been to so many concerts, I know how it goes. I'm like, look, I want pit tickets. Like, you owe me pit now because I'm missing the concert. And she looked at me and smiled and was like, yeah, hold on, let me talk to someone in the back. And it still took like 3 or 4 minutes. And she came back and handed me 4 pit tickets, ran back in and went down to the pit. So it was worth missing a couple songs.
Awesome, man.
I think,
but just another weird story, random kind of thing.
That show stands out. Well, because of that, but I remember, I think it was after Love Song came out, after 50 First Dates. So either really big, and I don't know if that increased their budget, but I just remember, since it was one of the first times I didn't see them in pit, I just remember that the light show and the production they had behind it and the
Oh, gotcha.
and the stage had a big 311 on it. I thought that was really cool. It was like, oh man, these guys are like really big. They put like a lot of effort into this. And so that was really nice to see the show, from afar, whereas up close, all you see is heads and a bunch of different lights.
Yeah, it's really
You
cool.
know?
Yeah. Going back to Nick's story, if I remember correctly, Nick, they gave you priority for being able to buy pit tickets for the following year's tour, right? Because if I remember correctly, in 2009, that was Ziggy Marley and the Expendables, where the three of us, you, me, and Sean, we got to be right there in the pit for the Irvine show.
Yeah, one of the guys that so after the concert, I think I emailed in because the pre-sale was done by a different company.
Mhm.
So the next day I emailed in and was like, hey man, I'm pissed. Like I got kicked out of my seat. I had to go fight. Like I eventually got back in, but it was kind of an inconvenience. And, so the guy emailed back and was like, yep, totally our mistake. It was our fault. So next time they're in town, just, email me and I'll make sure you get pit tickets. So next time they came, I emailed him and we had pit tickets.
Very cool. Yeah, Allison was actually asking me that the other day. Like she was asking the question, when was the closest you ever were to a concert? And I was like, oh, it had to have been that 311 show with Ziggy and the Expendables, where we were right there in the pit.
I can't count how many times I've been on the rail. One of my first concerts at the Palladium, I cut my eye open in the mosh pit. Had to go get stitches after. I did go get it looked at by the people at the venue. They like put a Band-Aid on it. They're like, there's not much we can do here. I was like, cool, as long as it stops bleeding, I'm going back to the concert. I don't think you were there for that one, Albert. That was
no,
Marcello.
I wasn't, but you told me the story. In fact, if I
Wow.
remember correctly, you used like your t-shirt to kind of like gauge the wound or like stop the bleeding a little bit.
Yeah, I think I took the wife beater off and was
Yeah.
using no, wait, it wasn't mine, it was someone else's. Some other guy gave me a shirt and it
Not
was all
there.
sweaty, but I was like, what am I gonna do? Like I'm sweaty.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just used a random shirt.
Awesome,
man.
So many stories.
I remember Nick was ready to mosh pit when we'd pick him up and he'd walk out with his knee brace. I was like, oh, he's ready. He's ready to mosh pit today.
Oh, I love the moshing. I will admit. Still a fan of it. I think everyone's kind of weak nowadays. They don't do it. I don't know why.
Awesome. Anyone else got anything else? I mean, I was pretty much all the questions I had.
We should play Marcello's story since he got cut. He didn't really get into it.
Oh, okay, we could. That's a good idea. Let me put
because this is
it, but then lost it. So let me go ahead and cue that up really quick.
Yeah, play it. It was the first time that we met 311.
Okay. All right. So for those listening, this is Marcello's. Here we go. Marcello's story. Let me see if I can do this. Okay.
Story of Derek driving Santa Barbara.
So one of my early 311 memories is actually with Nick, who is on this podcast. And we went up to the Santa Barbara Bowl, and it was sort of like a debacle from the beginning because Derek Dupre took his dad's truck, and it was this like dually diesel truck that had like 2 gas tanks. And I think Derek didn't know that one of the gas tanks was empty. And so we're driving on the freeway, and then like the car stalls out. And I really don't know like all the ins and outs of what happened, but we totally stalled on the freeway, and then we like coasted, parked, and then we figured it out, and then we continued up to Santa Barbara. But while we were there in Santa Barbara, Nick was hanging out by like the backstage entrance. It's just basically like a little fence. And he was hanging out there, and he was just hanging out there. And I guess he heard of the local radio DJ say something about like there was going to be a meet and greet before the show. And Nick like overheard this guy talking, and Nick's like, hey, Derek, Marcello, come over here and just wait around. And so Nick started getting buddy with this guy, and basically tells Nick, hey, there's like 3 people that didn't show up. So if they don't show up, we'll let you 3 go in. And so they didn't show up. We got into the meet and greet and got to meet all the guys. It was like really cool. I think I had just gotten my wisdom teeth out, so my face was like super puffy in all the photos that we took. But I had all the members of 311 sign a dollar bill, and I had it in my wallet. And as we were leaving the venue, they were selling like bootleg t-shirts. And I totally spent that $1 on like a $10 bootleg t-shirt. That, I mean, that dollar is definitely not worth, it's worth something to someone, but like to the general public, it's not worth anything. But to me, clearly at the time, it was worth everything. And I felt so stupid that my $1 bill was not, that I gave it away. It was so stupid. I was such a friggin' idiot. But yeah, Nick and his little sneaky ways got us into the 311 pre-show meet and greet back in 2000. Yeah, that was a great tour.
There we go.
So it was May 26th of 2000. So yeah, Santa Barbara Bowl. This is back before they remodeled it. So I think it was dirt at the bottom at the pit. And the bathroom wasn't remodeled either. I think it was like upstairs. It was weird. It was really small, but I actually went to the restroom and I heard some guy was out there yelling at someone else like, hey, like I'm gonna give away the backstage tickets over near that area. And I just overheard it. And I'm like, okay, like, I don't know what that is, but we were there early. We got there super early. And I'm like, I'm just going to go over there. So I made them come over. I'm like, hey guys, just come with me. I want to check something out. And get over and I strike up a conversation with the guy. And I ask him, I'm like, hey, I was over near the restroom. I heard you talking about like giving backstage passes away or something. And he was like, oh yeah, I'm with the local radio channel. We did a giveaway. And so I'm in charge of handing them out to the people that won the tickets. And, I was like, okay, oh, that's cool. That makes sense. Gotcha. Just like I heard it. And I'm like, I got to go find out more. And he was like, no, totally respect that. Where you guys from around here. So we just started chatting with him. So we're like, no, we're from the LA area. He's like, oh, you drove up from LA? Aren't they playing in LA? And we're like, yeah, we saw him there too. He's like, oh, dang. So you guys are really big fans. Like, that's pretty cool that you drove all the way to Santa Barbara. So we were just chatting with them, telling them, like, oh yeah, we really like him. Or I think we saw him 5 times that month, maybe. But so in it, he was like, all right, you guys are cool. He's like, hey, I'll tell you what, like sometimes people don't show up in time to claim their tickets because we got to go back at a certain time to meet the schedule. So, if someone doesn't show up, man, I'll hook you up. So I'm telling Derek and Marcello, like, dude, just wait here, man. We might get backstage. We just got to wait. And then our other friends that were there, we pretty much left them hanging. So we abandoned the other 3 people to go backstage. And we're like, hey guys, thanks. But one of my favorite parts about the story is the guy's sitting there and he's got 1 free ticket left. And I remember looking over like, well, of the 3, there's no one I would want to separate of that group. And there was some other guy standing there with his girlfriend. And he straight just said, I'll take it. And he took it out of the guy's hand. And he like turned to his girl and was like, I'm sorry. And just went backstage and totally abandoned his girl to go back and meet the band. And so, yeah, I sent you guys that picture earlier. Like, I didn't have anything for him to sign either. And they gave me a sheet that just had the band's name on it, the logo, to have him sign it. But that was the first time we got to meet him, all because I got lucky and overheard the guy and wasn't afraid to just go ask him.
Awesome, man. Very cool story. I remember hearing that, and I remember seeing those pictures of Marcello too. So yeah, he was definitely a trooper, like sticking it out after wisdom teeth pulled, because that's pretty painful.
Yeah, that was close. We were getting ready to go on our missions. And so right before Marcello left, the weekend before, we saw 311 was it 3 days in a row? I can't, man, it's been so long now. I can't remember what was first, but we did the Cypress Hill Smokeout. Sorry about that. They played there. We got backstage there, saw them, and then we flew up to San Francisco. Saw them in San Francisco, flew back that night. There's a whole story to that should be told, but with everyone that was there.
Yeah.
And then saw them in LA. And then, no, we saw them in LA before San Francisco. Then San Francisco was last. We get back in town, and like Marcello leaves the next day to go on his mission. So like when we landed, he was like, I got to go buy clothes for the mission, because he was checking out within 24 hours. So it was a great way to send him off on his mission.
Very cool, man. Love it. Love it. So this has been really cool, man. This has been great, reminiscing about old times and talking about 311. Any other talking points we want to bring up before we wrap up?
Happy 311 Day.
Happy
311 Day.
We'll definitely want to get the crew together again to talk. There's so many good stories to continue on and branch off into other stories. I mean, we talked about a few other things that'd be cool to bring up in other podcasts. And then Sean, I want to hear more about the pizza business, man. So we'll definitely want to have you on.
Now.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay. Well, thanks again, everybody. This has been really cool. You've been listening to the Casting for Fun podcast. And happy 311 Day, everyone.